Good morning. Good morning. We're going to get started here with our hearing. And just a reminder, I've been asked to give to all members, you press the button to mute, and you press it again if you want to speak. Good morning and welcome to this shadow hearing titled Kidnapped and Disappeared, Trump's Assault on Chicago. I'm Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. I represent Washington's 7th Congressional District, and I'm the ranking member of the Immigration Subcommittee of the House Judiciary Committee. I want to welcome all of our witnesses. Thank you so much for being here this morning and for helping us shed a light on what is happening to your families, to your communities, and to your city. With 19 members of Congress here from all over the country, this is the largest act of congressional immigration oversight since Trump took office. We are pleased to have with us Democratic Caucus Chair Pete Aguilar, Congressional Hispanic Caucus Chair Adriano Espaillat, several members of the House Judiciary Committee, as well as members from the wider Democratic Caucus. I want to give special thanks to Representative Danny Davis for hosting us here in his district, to Cook County President Tony Preckwinkle and Commissioner Alma Anaya for hosting us in this room, to Representatives Chuy Garcia, Delia Ramirez, and Robin Kelly for their partnership in organizing today's field hearing, as well as a number of roundtables on how the Trump administration is attacking the people of Chicago under the guise of enforcing immigration law. I also want to recognize the leadership of Judge Ruben Castillo, who is chairing a new commission to document abuses happening here in Chicago and is with us in this audience. This is the fourth shadow hearing that I've held on the ways in which the Trump administration is destroying our immigration system and trampling on our constitutional rights by kidnapping and disappearing people of all immigration statuses, including U.S. citizens. Today, we continue our congressional duties on this fact-finding mission. You will hear a few of these stories from folks right here in Chicago and learn how this impacts all of us and how the administration is using its operations in cities like Chicago, LA, and Washington, D.C. as a blueprint for the rest of the country. A few housekeeping items before we begin. While today's event is not a formal hearing, I will operate it as if it were, with opening statements from our witnesses and 5 minutes of questions from our members. We do have a timer that is here to help people keep track of the time, and since we do have many members here, I ask that you please stick to the time allotted for your questions so that we can end the hearing on time and move straight into the press conference that is scheduled to happen after this. I now recognize myself for an opening statement. Donald Trump set the stage for his invasion of Chicago by posting a meme on social media site saying that the city was, quote, about to find out why it's called the Department of War, end quote. He then told military leaders that he wanted to use American cities as, quote, training grounds for our military. And he really wasn't kidding. Here in Chicago, the administration is going to war with its own citizens, unleashing a kind of violence and inhumanity that we never thought we would see in an American city. The images and stories emerging from Chicago are part of the bigger picture of a president who abuses his power in violation of the Constitution and due process rights, a president who strips health care from millions of Americans while unleashing terror on residents of American cities that may have started with immigrants of all statuses, but extends far beyond to all residents, including U.S. citizens. Here in Chicago, under the cover of darkness, armed federal agents rappelled from Black Hawk helicopters to invade a South Shore apartment building. They dragged families out of bed, some naked, zip-tied children outside. Many affected were Black American U.S. citizens. Despite the Trump administration's claim that the building was frequented by Tren de Aragua members, only one of the 37 people who were arrested during the raid had any ties to the gang. The uncontrolled violence has separated families and inflicted chaos on communities and businesses. Masked men on the streets, kidnapping and disappearing people of all immigration statuses, including U.S. citizens. Federal agents pointing guns at unarmed civilians, tackling teenagers to the ground for the crime of running while black, and deploying tear gas in residential areas around children and schools. Racial profiling of people simply for how they look, what language they speak, or what street corner they congregate on. All actions that are keeping families at home terrified to shop at the grocery store or even visit the doctor. Stunningly, even the Border Patrol chief, Gregory Bovino, has personally been involved throwing tear gas in violation of a court order. And even as federal agents terrorize and dehumanize people, they have lied over and over again about the people that they are arresting, adding insult to injury. This is not normal, and we cannot treat it as such. Instead of working with elected officials who govern this state and the cities, they are working. The Trump administration is using the power of the federal government to provoke violence, harming the long-term health, vitality, and safety of communities. Even judges are ruling against the administration's overreach, concluding that there is no substantial evidence that, quote, a danger of rebellion is brewing. Let me be clear that the majority of people that are filling the ICE detention centers do not even have a single criminal conviction. According to ICE's own data, 65% of immigrants detained have not been convicted of a crime. And on top of that, of those with any criminal conviction at all, a whopping 40% of the convictions are based on immigration or traffic offenses. Meanwhile, U.S. citizens have also been illegally detained. And just yesterday, we heard directly from a member of the U.S. Armed Services who was giving his life to serve our country, but came home to find that his father had been deported. These are not isolated stories. They are happening with a frightening regularity. They remind us that when you undermine the rights and the protections of one group of people, you undermine them for every single person. This is what happens when the administration, with the full blessing of the Supreme Court, is using racial profiling to go after anyone they think could be undocumented. They arrest citizens, green card holders, and undocumented people who have lived in our country for decades. People who have lived alongside us, raising American families and contributing to the U.S. economy. This abuse of power from the Trump administration, though, is backfiring. The vast majority of Americans do not agree with these indiscriminate and abusive enforcement actions. The vast majority want a humane and working immigration system so that we can continue to benefit from the tremendous contributions of immigrants. House Democrats will do everything in our power to hold this lawless administration accountable and to connect the dots for the American people on health care, on immigration, and our fundamental constitutional rights. I'm so grateful to all of our witnesses for being here today to share their thoughts and perspectives, and I look forward to our discussion. It is now my pleasure to introduce today's witnesses. Lawrence Benito is the Executive Director of the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, or ICER. Since 2012, he has overseen successful campaigns to pass landmark pro-immigrant policies at the state level, shepherded the expansion of essential immigrant services programs, and furthered ICER's standing as a national leader in immigrant rights organizing. On the national level, Mr. Benito serves as the board treasurer of the Fair Immigration Movement, or FIRM, and on the executive committee for FIRM Action. A Peace Corps alum and the son of immigrants from the Philippines, Mr. Benito lives on the south side of Chicago with his wife, 4 kids, and 2 dogs. Genesis O. Ms. O is a 19-year-old freshman at Roosevelt Institute in Chicago. Her mother, Laura, is currently detained in El Paso as a result of a DHS enforcement in Chicago. Laura has been continuously present in the United States for over 20 years. She is a successful entrepreneur and businesswoman who was also successfully raising 2 children of her own prior to this Border Patrol Home Depot parking lot raid and subsequent detention by ICE. Reverend David Black is a senior pastor at First Presbyterian Church of Chicago and an ordained teaching elder in the Presbyterian Church. He began pastoring First Church in 2020. He is spiritually rooted in Quakerism and grew up in a diverse array of Protestant and evangelical churches around the world. He graduated from Princeton Theological Seminary in 2018 with a Master of Divinity, Master of Arts in Christian Education and Formation, with a focus on ministry with young people and a certificate in Black Church Studies. Pastor Black's ministry has been focused on empowering individuals and communities who have been marginalized and dispossessed. Last month, while peacefully protesting and praying outside ICE's Broadview facility, Pastor Black was shot in the head by a pepper ball gun. Bob Ryder is the president of the Chicago Federation of Labor, or CFL, the third largest central labor council of the National AFL-CIO. Mr. Ryder is a third-generation member of the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. His family's roots in the labor movement run deep, with backhoe operators, crane mechanics, railroad workers, public safety officers, and teachers. In his role as the president of the CFL, Mr. Ryder serves on executive and advisory boards for labor, civic, and community organizations across Chicago and Cook County, including the Cook County Health and Hospital System, United Way of Metropolitan Chicago, and ABOC Bank. Mr. Ryder holds a bachelor's and master's degree in political science from Eastern Illinois University and a Juris Doctor degree from IIT Chicago-Kent College of Law. Juliet de Jesus Alejandra grew up in Chicago's Latin Northwest Side and is the executive director of Palenque LSNA. Palenque LSNA is a proud member of the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, Organized Communities Against Deportation, and Illinois Access to Justice Networks. Together, they represent hundreds of community organizations and thousands of neighbors rapidly responding to the intensification of the increasingly dangerous federal occupation of the city and the state that affects all Illinoisans. Ms. De Jesus Alejandre was selected by the Field Foundation for the Leaders for a New Chicago Award. She has also received the Kellogg Foundation's Emerging Leaders Fellowship and the Cultivate Women of Color Fellowship. She holds an MA in Community Development from North Park University in Chicago and a BA in Sociology and Latin American and Latino Studies from the University of Illinois at Chicago. Ani Huamani is a proud immigrant from Peru and a mom to two young boys being raised on the Southwest Side. Ani came into organizing in the labor movement by supporting unionized hotel staff fighting for fair contracts. She holds a master's degree in public administration from the University of Illinois at Chicago and currently serves as the Treatment Not Trauma campaign strategist and immigration defense coordinator at the Brighton Park Neighborhood Council. She currently helps co-lead the Southwest Rapid Response Team and assists in coordinating Know Your Rights trainings throughout different organizations and schools in the Southwest. Finally, Mr. Fee, Kevin Fee, is the legal director for the ACLU of Illinois. Since joining the ACLU in 2022, Mr. Fee has worked on a wide range of constitutional issues, including serving as counsel to oversee implementation of the ACLU's consent decree against the Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice. Before becoming legal director earlier this year, Mr. Fee was named as the first director of the Illinois Constitution and Democracy Project at the ACLU of Illinois. A graduate of the University of California, Berkeley, and Harvard Law School, before joining ACLU, Mr. Fee was a partner in the Chicago office of Sidley Austin, where he worked for nearly 20 years. While at the firm, Mr. Fee handled a broad range of civil and criminal litigation and investigations and chaired the office's pro bono committee, working closely with civil rights groups and other public interest organizations. We welcome all of our distinguished witnesses and thank them for participating in today's hearing. We ask that you summarize your testimony in 4 minutes, and to help you stay within that time, there is a timer in the back here to help you keep track of time. Mr. Benito, you may begin.